Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions Podcast, also streamed on Expert CRE Secrets Podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is an amazing way for you to exit highly appreciated crypto, business, real estate, defer hundreds of thousands to millions in tax so you can create and preserve more wealth. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts, and each episode I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial, wealth, crypto, and business minds in the world where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. Hey, I'm excited about our next guest. He is the founder of CRE Equity, and more than that, he's a longtime family friend. They have over $500 million under management, and he's a commercial real estate world-class operator, expert broker, investor, and good family friend. In fact, they focus on building a best-in-class organization to create and sustain prosperity for their community of stakeholders, and they believe that the large part of the success is aligned around the unique core values that form their cultural DNA, and they create an environment that allows their tenants, team members, and partners to show up with their authentic selves and bring their diversity of thought and expertise to share openly, with which drives better results and more innovation all through commercial real estate investing. Please welcome to the show with me, Josh Volens. Hey, Josh, how you doing?
How's it going, Brett? Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, it's going great. Excited to dive in. And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, Josh, could you tell us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Absolutely. So I started my career in commercial real estate on the brokerage side of the business. So in 2004, I joined a national real estate firm focusing on buying and selling assets for high net worth individuals, as well as institutions. I was a broker there for a good amount of time. And the whole goal there was to figure out how to find deals first, right? And really learn on the job and help individuals, for all intents and purposes, become their financial advisor when it came to real estate investing, and to be that expert and give them the best options so they can make the best decisions. In 2009, third deal in a row that I had sold for actually some very large family offices here locally. I'm based in San Diego. The third deal in a row that I'd sold, I was like, wow, we should really be buying this deal, was my trigger and catalyst then to launch CRE Equity in 2010, early 2010, where we have grown and focused on buying and selling effectively commercial real estate assets by adding value to them, and finding dislocations in the market to add that value and to maximize returns for our investor base. So that's kind of the overview. From 2010 to late 2018, we did deals mainly on a deal-by-deal basis. So, you hear the word syndication. That's basically saying a group of investors investing in a deal, or a club investment. So it's really past clients, client referrals, things like that invest in our deals. And in early 2019, we launched a private REIT vehicle. So a perpetual open-ended, you could say it 20 different ways, but it's known as a NAV REIT today, NAV REIT, which means that effectively there's no end date, right? So you can invest, we take money in on the first of every month. We strike values on monthly as well. So it's slightly different from the publicly traded REITs where they're striking it every second effectively, right? It's free flowing and trading. Publicly traded, we are privately non-traded. Very similar to, Blackstone's B REIT or Starwood's S REIT or JLL's REIT. We are C REIT. And that vehicle, again, we founded in 2019, rolled up a few assets into that to seed it, and have been growing that ever since. And the asset makeup of what we typically buy and what we've always done is, first and foremost, we're operators, more operators than allocators. And what that means is we're very hands-on with assets. We buy them, we fix them, and we operate them and we hold them typically. Sometimes we will sell assets and then buy some more. But we're growing in that regard. And we're focused on kind of the fixed income bracket. So investors that are passive, looking for an alternative to the active management of owning assets themselves and operating them, we kind of take the headache out of that, and we've professionalized that for others. And so that's why most invest with us.
Excellent. Amazing, Josh. And I could speak from personal experience. Part of our story, too, is Josh was originally at Marcus Millichap. He brought my cousin in and mentored my cousin, and also helped mentor me in my brokerage career, and really in introduction to investment real estate underwriting and brokerage as well. I think we did a couple work projects growing up with the Volens family, and doing different real estate development work projects with you guys. And so on top of that, my wife and I had a chance to invest with you guys personally, and have done phenomenally well. I think it started out with the Arizona retail center, right? That was distressed and half built, and kind of the bottom of the barrel. We'll talk about that more in a minute. But Josh, before I go into all of that, I also want to take one other step back. I believe we've been given certain gifts to be a blessing and help to others. Some people call them strengths, some people call them superpowers. But I want you to go back to your earlier days, and think about, what are those one or two gifts that you think you were given, and how does it help how you help and bless people today?
Oh, wow. Thank you for framing it that way, because that's a great way to frame it. First and foremost, I think gratitude is a huge gift, right? And a reminder of how fortunate we are to be in the US and have the opportunities that we have and the choices that we have. And so gratitude is kind of foundational for me in regards to just a frame of reference every day. I'm grateful. I try not to take things for granted. Not to say I'm perfect at all in that regard, but it puts things in perspective very quick. So very optimistic, very glass half full type of personality. And hopefully that mindset of abundance is a blessing to others. And hence part of our, statement of our vision statement or mission statement to build a best in class organization, to provide abundance to communities, right? And our stakeholders, that it's all about paying it forward in that regard. So I would say gratitude is a major one in the mindset as well. And the other is, in my household, everything was earned. I was definitely grew up very privileged in the sense I didn't want or need for anything. I had a roof over my head and food on the table and plenty of opportunities. But I think the biggest thing is hard work wasn't spoken about, it was modeled. And so just the power of modeling, I've carried that forward, I think, in my own family, hopefully with my daughters and my wife, and as a community leader and a leader in our business, is that, you can say one thing, but, your actions speak much louder. And so living your values and living out those values is really important.
I absolutely love it. Gratitude and a mindset of abundance, number one. And number two, learning work ethic and working hard and not taking anything for granted. Everything is earned. So now let's transition that into the topic, right, which is building wealth and passive commercial real estate with a world-class operators, right? So that's, people look at real estate in different ways to invest. But Josh, what's the number one secret to doing that that you found for those that you help out in the investment world?
Well, I guess it's to know so the number one secret, I don't know if it's so much of a secret as it is a discipline. And I think that's really important. I think just doesn't matter if you're investing in real estate or in the equities markets or in anything, it's having some type of being intentional and having a plan, right? So setting goals, having a plan, and having a process for that to work through, which is the discipline part. So that could be the underwriting. It could be a set of criteria or due diligence that you're going to utilize. In commercial real estate, the most interesting thing, different from, call it residential real estate, right? If you're buying single family homes, that market is a much more perfect information market. You've got Zillow, you've got Redfin, you've got MLS, you've got a lot more people with access to information. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely dislocations and call it relationships and other things that can differentiate besides expertise in that. But in commercial real estate, it's even more fragmented, I would say. Two buildings right next to each other could have totally different values because a lot of commercial real estate's valued based not just on location, but the income stream attached to it. Relationships matter even more in commercial real estate to differentiate. And really, inside information is not illegal. It's actually encouraged and how a lot of deals are done. And so building those relationships, be it in a micro market to a region to nationally, is a big differentiator between people that own real estate and operators. And you've got, call it the novice or new investors in commercial real estate that, maybe buy a single tenant net lease property, or they've traded out of a duplex or a second home into properties through 1031 exchange or other vehicles. There's a big disadvantage in knowledge, the knowledge and the relationships. And so I think the toughest thing is just knowing where you want to be, knowing where you are in regards to the investment stack, right? Are you on the new side, or are you on the scaled institutional side? And if you're going to own one or two properties, it's not a bad thing. That's a control. Typically it's a control item. But if you can give up that control and really diligence and invest with professionals, that's what I recommend. I'm a little bit biased there because I'm one of those professionals, but even with my own money, when I'm not investing with ourselves and our own deals, I'm investing with other professionals because they're focused on it 24/7. They live, breathe, eat it, and they have the relationships. They have knowledge, years and years of relationships and knowledge that you just can't acquire overnight. So
yeah, really well said, Josh. So the discipline and the intentionality of having a plan, and then realizing that commercial real estate has kind of an inherent advantage in that there's not perfect information like a residential, or you can get it's more fragmented, which means the value of the relationship and the insider information is not illegal, right? So if you can connect those dots, connect those business plans, and connect those relationships, then you can get perhaps an outside advantage to getting a higher return on your investment. Is that a fair summary?
that is, that's how you generate alpha, right? Is how do you beat the market? Is you have to make the market to some degree, right? So you find an asset that is undervalued, underappreciated, underutilized, and you have a relationship that can add value to that by putting a tenant right in to add that value. You can create millions and millions of dollars plus.
So let's dive right into that, Josh, right? Because I think this is really important because there are a lot of those that are, it's even novice or brand new or just getting their first syndications or just, or mid-size. But Josh, you started literally from the ground up with your family in this business. It's like you lived and breathed it since you were a kid, and then you had a chance to rise to the top in the brokerage community and Marcus and Millichap. And by the way, part of Josh's specialty is industrial office retail. And so you've been able to work and to become world-class in what you do. So talk about that differentiator for Sire Equity and what you've been able to build.
Yeah. I did grow up around the business, and that's a huge benefit, right? And what I learned from growing up around call it a developer household is the booms and busts of a developer household. And also, location matters, but again, relationships matter more. And it's not just with the tenants, it's also with the brokers. Brokers are extremely valuable or invaluable to projects to build those relationships. And then also from the banking lending side, one of the benefits of owning real estate, doesn't matter what kind of real estate it is, it's a great hedge against inflation, which is a hot topic right now, right? So it's an inflationary hedge. Two, it's something that you can utilize leverage with, right? And that's a huge benefit. There's good leverage and bad leverage. We can talk about that. And then also it creates income. Right? There's appreciation. I don't really look at the appreciation side of it. I always look at downside mitigation first, but it's a very tax efficient vehicle because of depreciation. You're able to shelter a lot of your gains from your cash flows, your income because of that. So it becomes a highly tax efficient vehicle. So, with those three things, looking at real estate and how do we differentiate, what we specialize in is typically commercial real estate assets. So like you said, Brett, industrial, more medical office than general office. So medical office, which is more specialized. And then when we look at retail, we're looking at net lease retail. And then when we look at multi-tenant retail in any situation, it's typically discounters, daily needs and services, and entertainment users. So a prototypical shopping center we would own would be called a Sprouts anchored, grocery anchored shopping center with a TJ Maxx or Home Goods, the Dollar Tree, the nail salon, the hair salon, and a couple fast food or quick service restaurants at the site, maybe a chiropractor, some professional services or medical retail assets inside there. So it's more of an essentials based retail. And we can go into that whole segment of how retail's changing, but effectively it becomes that neighborhood shopping center. It's part of the community. So again, hosting events and being part of the community is really a big part of what we like to be involved with as a company and as part of our culture is making sure that we're part of the local culture as well. So it's not just about having national tenants, it's about cultivating a good mix of national, regional, and local. So we really get representation of the community and embed ourselves there. And in the long term, as retail changes, right, or adapts, and with the balance of online sales and e-commerce, these become highly desired infill sites, right? Typically located right within neighborhoods and or on the freeway, highly visible. So, the redevelopment of these assets, they become covered land plays to some degree. And our creativity, our relationships, and I think some of the forward visioning looking forward also gives us an advantage to, again, maximize returns and value for investors.
And to that point, and things are changing pretty rapidly, Josh, right? In these last 60 days alone, with inflation and with interest rates increasing and just kind of a overall sentiment of change. So A, are you seeing that? What's your thoughts on how that specifically applies to commercial real estate? And B, how is Sire positioned to be able to take advantage of opportunities when they come up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, inflation is, everyone's feeling it, especially at the gas pumps, right? We're seeing all the pictures on social media of people taking a snapshot of how much they're paying at the gas station. But really, through COVID, I think it's not surprising to any of us through COVID with how much money that was printed and or deployed, right? You can't print 40% of all the money that's in supply today and not expect inflation. And the other monetary controls that the government's trying to utilize right now. Look, I'm not an economist. My crystal ball is as foggy as anyone's. However, tangible assets, just like in the GFC, great financial crisis, tangible assets are what seem to hold value, right? Hard assets. That's why real estate is a great inflationary hedge. But I don't see that. I see it calming down. I don't see it going away in the short term, call it the next 6-9 months. But they're doing everything they can from the Fed level to increase rates and to slow this down. And if not, potentially overcompensating just to show that they can get a little bit of movement here on inflation. And I could see then the interest rate market stabilizing. And that's the biggest thing that's dislocated right now and disrupted is in the last 90 to 120 days, you've seen interest rates for commercial move from sub 4% or even sub, mid to low 3% range for multifamily and some other assets to call it 5 up to 6%. I mean, it's 100 to 150 plus basis point movement, 1 to 1.5% movement. That's pretty dramatic. And, look, there's emotions to some degree in commercial real estate, but really when it comes down to it as an investment vehicle, you're just looking at what your risk spread is, or your return is at the end of the day, your cash flow, levered and unlevered, right? So with loans in place and without loans. And right now, because cost of capital from lending has gone up, what we've seen is leverage go down, right? And there's still an abundance of there's a lot of money out there, simply put, right? That still needs to find a home. And once that starts to deplete a little bit and the market normalizes, we'll probably see some push out in cap rates, which is what we buy at, right? The unlevered return, and probably some stabilizing in the interest rates, which will give us a positive leverage again on that. Right now we're at par or upside down. So like I said, there's good leverage and bad leverage, good debt and bad debt. Good debt is when you're making money with the bank's money, right? So if you're borrowing at 5% and you're buying an asset that's paying you 6%, you make 1% on every dollar you borrow from the bank. But in a market right now where if you're buying something for 5% and your debt's 6%, you're losing $1 for every dollar you borrow from the bank. So leverage definitely matters. How we're set up to outperform in this market. I look forward to markets like this because when there's kind of chaos and dislocation and truly more emotionally based decision making that's going on, you can call it fear, whatever you want to call it, just lack of information, and people usually pause. But that doesn't stop, the motivated sellers out there that still need to transact, not because they want to, but because they have to, right? So that could be the D's, which Brett, the debt, divorce, dissolution of partnerships, death. Again, I probably said debt coming due. There are all types of reasons why people sell. And, typically we're buying from less from, call it, individuals and more institutions. And the institutions we buy from, they're just dollars and cents. It's just numbers for them, right? So if they have a 5-year closed-end vehicle, again, different from us, we're open-ended. So it's evergreen or forever, right? We're looking at this long-term being forever versus, some of these closed-end funds, which are, 5-year, 7-year, 10-year timeframes. If at the end of their timeframe, it's their mandate is to sell. It doesn't matter if it's a good market, bad market, their mandate is to sell. We want to buy from those types of investors. And we get the advantage of that. So one thing is being well capitalized to do that. The second is having scale, that we have access then to debt relationships that are better than the open market, right? So when you build scale and you're able to go get, $50 to $100 million lines of credit from banks and institutions, they're giving you the best rate. It's, in this type of market, when there's, again, concerns out there, investors are going to the blue chips, right? They're moving to safety. And so are lenders. They want to invest their dollars or lend their dollars to what they perceive as more safe operators or businesses. And luckily, we've been able to position ourselves in that category. We're utilizing a lot less debt. We're buying assets cash, using some of our revolving lines of credit. A majority of our portfolio, it's about 50% leverage. And what we really look at is not so much the leverage point, but our debt service coverage. So how many dollars in that we're getting in rent for every dollar of loans that we have. And right now we're about a 2.75. So we have almost $3 of income that comes in for every $1 of debt we have. So it's a huge coverage ratio. When you talk to lenders, they're typically like 1.1 or 1.25, like $1.10 or $1.25 for every dollar of debt. We're nearly 3. So just trying to be conservative in that. And then the assets that we're buying, more insulating through the market, right? They have good increases built in, or CPI, or shorter term leases, and just kind of balancing that so we can take advantage of rising rental rates to maximize value for our investors in the portfolio.
Amazing. We're talking about Josh Volens with CireEquity.com. That's CireEquity.com. You connect with him. It's spelled CIRE and then equity.com. He's also on LinkedIn as well. So Josh, I want to shift a little bit here. And that was, it's like I wrote down a ton of notes, right? The interest rate spread obviously is a big part. The arbitrage between what you're borrowing at and what your return is so important. And that whole shift, it's basically we're trying to set a new normal. Like, what are real prices going to be moving forward, right? And you want to be typically in real estate, some hard asset that's going to be inflationary hedge against as inflation goes higher. So it's kind of see what's going to happen here. So I couldn't agree with you more on all of that. I want to shift now to capital gains tax, right? So part of what we believe is helping people escape feeling trapped by capital gains taxes, not feeling trapped by 1031 exchanges and different things like that. So I'm curious, Josh, in your experience, right, what's been the biggest frustration you've seen for maybe a client when it comes to the 1031 exchange or other tax deferral options that don't work for like primary homes or cryptocurrency or business sales? What's kind of your take on that, Josh?
Well, we love 1031 buyers because 1031 buyers usually have a time limit. It's like having a gun to your head, right? And so with that fear of paying taxes and being caught on that hamster wheel of paying taxes, I wouldn't say when you're a non-professional investor, right? They typically don't make the best decisions. It's the tail wagging the dog. They're trying to invest the dollar so they don't pay the tax or so they can defer the taxes. And not everyone's able to perfectly time that. And so when we're selling assets, the best buyer typically is a 1031 buyer, right? They're more likely motivated to pay a higher price because they're looking at what they are coming out from a basis of what they sold. And they have a time limit on their hands as well, which it motivates them to move forward and less likely to come in and retrade or change their price or change their terms because, again, they have a time limit and a fixed issue on their hands based on the 1031. So from a seller's perspective, we appreciate 1031 buyers when we're selling off some of our single tenant net lease assets and things like that. But also just from client experience, right? And on ourselves being in 1031 exchanges ourselves, when we sell property, we 1031 exchange, for the REIT, it is, there's a lot of catch-22s to it, right? Sometimes it makes more sense to pay taxes. And if there's other opportunities like the DST that you provide, Brett, I think it gives ultimate flexibility to investors to make the best decisions and not have the gun to their head, right? And I think that's where intentionality and planning and discipline really comes back full circle. How do you differentiate? Is if you're planning on selling your business, selling whatever, that doesn't just happen overnight. It's like, hey, I'm just going to sell my business tomorrow, and you close, right? There's planning and there's preparation and there's checklists that go into that, and you have professionals helping you. If you're doing a 1031 exchange or looking at alternatives, I would always go again back to professionals that do this 24/7, that are specialized to gather that information so you can make the best decisions. So you're not caught on, again, the hamster wheel, the roller coaster, the merry-go-round of 1031 and letting the tail wag the dog with taxes. It's you buying yourself that time. I think it's extremely valuable, and having a plan is even more valuable built with a professional.
Very well said. Yeah, we call that the shotgun wedding, right? You get engaged in 45 days, get married in 180. We all had friends maybe get married, really quickly. And sometimes it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And or the 1031 exchange just doesn't work for business sales anymore. It doesn't work for cryptocurrency or primary homes. So we have a solution for that. It's called a Deferred Sales Trust, not to be confused with the Delaware Statutory Trust, which is also known as a DST. The Delaware is just another form of a 1031 exchange. But the Deferred Sales Trust is something entirely different, although it accomplishes a lot of things like capital gains tax deferral. It can also move funds outside your taxable estate. It can also give you the opportunity to be passive or active. You can do a little bit of both, and really also diversify into different assets at different times. It doesn't have to be like-kind real estate. So there's a lot of advantages to it. If anyone wants to learn more about that, they can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Any thoughts on that, Josh, before we move to the lightning round?
No, I mean, again, I would check it out. I would look at all your options before you make a decision and try to do this planning as far in advance as you can. And really, we always talk about being proactive versus reactive. And so, anyone from our team is always talking about what's the business plan, what's the goal. And we look at things on, again, longer term horizons. So we try to plan, multiple years in advance on things and have those triggers of when to execute something. So again,
excellent.
Contact Brett.
Thanks so much, Josh. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Let's do it.
All right. Knowing what you know now, Josh, if we go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget you make sure to tell yourself to do?
Ooh. Well, I was working and I was I was buying and selling real estate. So I was doing the same thing I'm doing today. I think some of the best advice I got around that time, and the same advice I would take again today, is, you can define your own success and balance. Don't define it by others. Define that yourself. And life is seasonal, so it's going to ebb and flow, and that's okay, right? It's not always going to be perfect, but define balance and success for yourself. That's what
excellent.
I would tell myself.
Excellent. Question number 2. Number 1 book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
Ooh, well, you can see there's a lot of books behind me. Look, my foundational books I talked about in the beginning, Abundance Mindset, like Mindset by Dr. Carolyn Dweck is one of the best books. I use that in all aspects of my life, communicating with my kids. Even a follow-on to that is Grit by Angela Duckworth. She even quotes Mindset, Carolyn Dweck, in her book. Then I would move into Nonviolent Communication. I don't remember the author off the top of my head, but again, I use that in all aspects of my life with my kids, my wife, and in my leadership at the company, in the community. And then Mental Toughness, I think it's Zarides. That's just a great exercise to go through. So a lot of it is, again, I focus on behaviors, the discipline and behaviors. So those are the types of things.
Leads into the next question. What's the number 1 leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Ooh. There's one right by my desk here, and it just says, give more, take less.
Beautiful. Second to last question. What are you most curious about right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a very interesting time in the world. And when we're really privileged, and Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and you have pretty much everything on there, right? There's the tremendous amount of introspection, and again, leading with gratitude, just feeling what's going on around the world and within the US alone. I think that weighs heavy on me, and what can I do as a community leader to help affect positive change, right? So the political environment, the geopolitical environment, socioeconomic environment, there's a lot of issues going on, and just being aware of that, being grateful for what I have, and how can I give more and take less?
Beautiful, Josh. Love it. Last question, Josh. After all your success, your beautiful family, all the people you help create and preserve more wealth, sell all the commercial real estate deals, build CRE Equity, and the team that you have there, being a good friend and family friend all these years, Josh. What's the number one habit that you try to practice, daily or often, to keep you centered in your values, and also to stay encouraged or charged to take another mountain or another height?
Yeah, I would say I am a creature of habit to a big degree. Again, I build habits, and I think actions build behaviors, repetition. So my morning routine, I think, is just how I set myself up for the day. I've got a book here next to my desk here. It's the Oak Journal. A good friend put this together, and within it, it sets up your day. So in that, it starts with gratitude. It's literally the top box, and it's got 3 things. So 3 things I'm grateful for to start the day. Underneath that, it's my vision for the day, right? So what is today's goal going to be like? So connection, relationship building, community building. It could be productivity. And then the 3 most important things I need to do today, right? And I list those out. So if people have checklists of like 40 things, it's just not possible. So what are the 3 most vital things? If you get the first one done, then it's a success. But if you get all 3, it's even that much more. Planning out my day thereafter. And then I do a little journaling and then a little reading. So it's called a 10-10-10. 10 minutes on this, 10 minutes writing, 10 minutes reading, inspirational things, and my own affirmation statement as well. So, and then I look at my vision I've got in front of me, but my 3-year vision I go through as well. So that's how I set my day up.
Amazing, Josh. Thank you so much. I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you for being a friend, a mentor, being able to invest with your company. I give CRE Equity and Josh Volens my highest recommendation. Absolutely love you, brother, man. And I want to encourage you to keep using your gifts that you've been given, and to encourage those habits of having gratitude and have a mindset of abundance, as well as working very hard, not taking anything for granted. What's it? Integrity is never owned. It's only rented, and the rent is due every day. Or even hard work is never owned. It's only rented, and the rent is due every day. So go ahead and keep doing those things, Josh. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, can you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, so you can go to CRE Equity, CIRE Equity.com. You can contact us. Feel free to reach out to me as well directly if you like, at Josh or J Volens, V as in Victor, OLEN at CIREEquity.com, or IR, which is investor relations at CIREEquity.com. And thanks
Amazing.
so much for having me.
Absolutely, Josh. And I want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust or connecting with somebody like Josh Volens to invest passively is the best way for you to grow your wealth, right? Create and preserve your wealth. We're also streaming expert CRE secrets. We appreciate everyone out there who's watching and listening. If we can be of any help to you for any of your exit plans on crypto, business, real estate, saving a failed 1031 exchange, selling your real estate, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Please rate, review, subscribe. Please share this with someone that can inspire today.